right, thank y'all for tuning in, and I'm here with Dr. Winslow, who is a part of the Tarleton State University Communications Department, and she is going to St. Louis, Missouri to speak on behalf of domestic violence with this company called Safe Connections. So, Dr. Winslow, can you just give me a little rundown? What is Safe Connections?
Safe Connections is actually an organization that helps domestic abuse, sexual assault victims with their recovery, and they serve the eastern side of Missouri, which is how I got familiar with them. It's a resource center. They're not a housing. They're not, they are there for domestic and sexual assault victims to get counseling, training, and basically regain your life and help you move from victim to survivor.
Awesome. And just really quick, can you define for us, some of the characteristics of domestic violence for, those abusers that might be out there that they don't realize that they're actually a part of this?
Well, and that's where my mistakes were. I always thought, and that's what I'm going to St. Louis for, is I will be speaking on strategic communication and domestic abuse awareness, because the key to understanding domestic abuse is understanding what it is. And for me, I had no idea that verbal assaults, emotional, financial, medical neglect are all characteristics of domestic abuse, domestic violence. The words are used interchangeable. I think of those as more abuse. But I always thought to be an abuse victim, you had to have broken bones, you had to have cuts. I didn't realize until I myself was a victim, and two situations involving the police, that domestic violence begins with verbal, emotional. It's about control. And abusers want to control their victims. So they don't just go in and beat you, and that's what I always thought.
Yeah.
That's
kind of what the stereotype is.
They're going to beat you into submission. It's subtle. They use tricks like gaslighting. And gaslighting is where they will convince you that you're making something up. It's not really happening. So you begin to believe that what you believe is not true.
Wow.
And that's part of their breaking down. They'll use control. In my case, my abuser would monitor all my social media activity. He monitored my phone. He constantly would check my text messages. Some of the tactics that abusers use include gaslighting. They use triangulating. Triangulating is where they try and pit people against you. So like in my case, my now ex-husband, who was my abuser, we would have an argument, and he would text my friends or our older children and say, look what she's doing. And that's triangulating. So if that's happening to you, if you're for a college student, if you're dating someone or you're in a relationship where they are triangulating or gaslighting, those are signs of abuse. Yes. They do that. It's control. They're trying to control you. And I didn't realize that's what that was. And so part of those things, they're also trying to isolate you. My abuser didn't have a lot of friends, so he would poach mine, and then as my friends started saying they weren't comfortable around him, he would, they're not good friends, and then he would try and break up my relationships.
What made you say yes to going to this convention and standing up and speaking out on behalf of your story and what's going on with everyone?
It's not a convention.
Okay,
It's a one-day event where they bring in a speaker to educate. And I am the featured speaker at this. I was asked by Safe Connections because 2 years ago, I'm a graduate of Safe Connections, and they were the group that helped me get out of my abusive relationship. And after I graduated, knowing that I have a journalism background, and I'm a communicator, and I teach, they said, at some point down the road, we will probably ask you to come share your story. And they mentioned it about a year ago, and they asked me to write something, and I tried to write something, and I couldn't. It was still too fresh. So they approached me in February and asked if I would be willing to come and share my story at this conference. They have one in the fall, one in the spring.
Oh, okay.
And this one's just for women, and the fall one is for everyone. And they want me to share my story in hopes of, one, educating, because I want the word to get out that it's about strategic communication. For me, it was the right words from the right people at the right time that helped me move from victim to survivor and overcome my abuser's tactics and behaviors. And so knowing that, I got asked in February, and I accepted, and the conference is Saturday, and yeah, I'm a little
Well,
nervous.
we definitely wish you luck, and I'm sure you're going to knock it out of the
Thank you.
park. Just a little bit about Safe Connections. I know you mentioned it's in the eastern part of Missouri, so is that the only where they are stationed, or are they trying to expand?
No, every state, every area.
Oh,
So
okay.
here, I believe we have cross timbers.
Oh, okay.
So every state has a domestic abuse. In fact, when I graduated from Safe Connections, they advised me to connect with cross timbers, and I just haven't yet, because again, for me, I first kind of wanted, I didn't share this publicly until very recently. You're a little bit embarrassed, and after I graduated, I realized I didn't need to be embarrassed, but since I was beginning a new life in Texas, I wanted to go on with that life and not look back.
Yeah, start fresh.
Yes. And now I have students who come to me. For some reason, I would say I get probably 2-3 students a semester who will say this is happening. And it's like, okay, maybe I need to be a little more public. Maybe I need to,
Bring
share.
some more awareness.
Yeah, bring a little more awareness, because some of these students are coming just, out of just talking in your office, and you're going, whoa, that's not healthy. And you know that it's not healthy because you were there. And I wish that, I'm 53 years old, and I wish that someone would have told me when I was in my 20s, before I married my abuser, what domestic abuse looks like, because a lot of these things he was doing early on, and I just didn't see it.
Yeah.
So I really would like for students, male or female, that's another thing. Safe Connections isn't just for women. We have they have male clients there as well. There are males who are being abused. And again, you have, depending on the relationship. I just recently, when a friend of mine in St. Louis found out that I was coming back to speak, he sent me an email. I had lost touch with him for a couple years, that he just got out of an abusive relationship with his wife. And what he described in the email, it was like, I felt like I was reading my story.
Yeah.
So it can happen anywhere. It really comes down to control. But if you don't recognize those signs, then it can lead to physical.
Yes.
I was fortunate that,
Yes.
and not all abusers are going to be physical. A lot of them just get a rush out of the emotional game.
Yeah.
And so.
So to conclude our little talk, what is some good advice for people out there that may be just now learning that they're in this situation? What's some good advice that you have to, leave?
First off, don't be embarrassed. Okay, and that was for me. When the police first sent me to Safe Connections, I didn't call the first time because I was mortified. And I was like, no, this is just jerk behavior. Mm-hmm. But first, don't be embarrassed. Go ahead and get help. But let's say you're not even to the point of getting help. If your gut says something is wrong here, listen to your gut and talk to friends. Research what are the signs of domestic abuse. And talk to friends. Build yourself a support network. For me, it was my support network. I was working on my doctorate, and one of my committee members was a psychologist who happened to witness a phone call between me and my abuser. And that opened up a conversation. Yeah. So the first step would be to talk to people, and if you do believe you are being abused, there are local resources, and talk to them. Get the help you need, but So don't be ashamed. Get help. Build a support network, but don't learn how to not engage your abusers. Abusers are bullies, and that's what it really came down to. My abuser was a bully, and they like to bully people. The key to learn with a bully is to not give them fuel. And so I had to learn, you know, as a woman, I tend to be emotional, and he would run with that. I mean, my abuser would get me in tears and then run his phone and start recording me and then say, I'm going to show this to all your friends.
Ugh,
okay.
awful.
And so what I had, knowing that I couldn't stop him from being a bully, I had to learn how not to engage him. Learn to just walk away. When you're being bullied, walk away. Other tips I've learned, my abuser cleaned out my finances. So for young women, I always tell manage your own finances, and young women or men, young people, manage your own money. Don't give control of your life over to someone. So manage your money. My abuser took total control of my life. I didn't even have the passwords to our bank accounts.
Oh my goodness.
I didn't even know, as a doctoral student, I didn't even know how to manage my finances. So that was one of the things Safe Connections did, is they offered courses on this. I had no idea like what was on the credit cards, and my abuser had racked up $40,000 in credit card debt.
Oh my gosh.
And I didn't know. So one of the best tips would be aware. Learn, be on top of, don't turn everything over. So I would say be aware, get help, talk, be open about it. And that's part of the reason I've come forward, is I should have been talking more.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much,
you.
Dr. Winslow, for sharing your story with us and giving us some extra resources.
Thank you.
Congratulations and good luck on Saturday.
It'll be fun.
Thank you.
Thank you.